We had a wild night in the NBA last night. Victor Wembanyama doing absolutely insane things, but just when we thought we could focus back on the basketball on the court, a troubling story breaking this morning. Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, Rozier, a guard for the Miami Heat, arrested for their involvement in gambling schemes. Plus, Damon Jones also in this investigation in something that includes LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to go through some of the specifics of what's going on, and then I'll give you my 2 cents on what's happening here and what this all means for the NBA, for sports in general. So this is the report from Shams Charania. Portland Trail Blazers coach Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier. Shams broke the news super early this morning. They've been arrested as a part of a pair of wide-ranging investigations related to illegal sports betting and rigged poker games backed by the mafia. Now, I think it's important to understand that what Chauncey Billups is being accused of or arrested for here is very different than what Terry Rozier is said to have allegedly done. These are two very separate things. We'll get into exactly why. Billups and Rozier were among a total of 34 people arrested, and they were stemming from a years-long investigation. Rozier was arrested Thursday morning in Orlando. The Miami Heat lost last night in Orlando against the Magic. The Magic's big three now with Des Bane, Paolo Banchero, and Franz Wagner. All three of them look very good, scoring more than 20 points, and the Orlando Magic got a win. Rozier did not play, but what Rozier is alleged to have done is having access to private information known by NBA players or coaches that was likely to affect the outcome of a game or players' performances. So basically what Terry Rozier, they believe happened is that Rozier, in a game way back in 2023, let it be known that he was going to hit the under on his points, rebounds, and assists, that he wasn't going to play much, that he was going to leave a game early. And then what he did was he played just 10 minutes and then left the game citing a foot injury. That type of thing, obviously, that can impact what your total player prop bets come out to. And the reason why this got caught is because 30 wagers in 46 minutes from a professional bettor totaling almost $14,000 came in on the under on Rozier's points, rebounds, and assists. And Rozier is, he had some good years there in Charlotte, but he is very much in the role player category in the NBA. Back in 2023, he was putting up bigger numbers, but still, to see a lot of bets come in on a player like him, usually it's the main guys that are going to, the LeBrons of the world that are going to get more interest. And so for that amount of money to come in on Terry Rozier, specifically Terry Rozier unders, raised some eyebrows, and that caught attention here. And so what's believed to have happened is that Rozier let somebody know that, hey, I'm going to be out for this game before it was publicly made available. Teams issue their injury reports the day before games. Teams will issue them on a consistent basis and put out who's injured, who's not. And that's what information is publicly available. However, it's when players, personnel, anybody else gets access to information that is not publicly available that you start running into some problems. It's the same idea as, say, insider trading in the stock market, something like that. Now, what Chauncey Billups is alleged to have done, and we're going to get to the Damon Jones and the Lakers and LeBron thing in just a moment, but what Chauncey Billups is alleged to have done is been involved in an illegal poker ring. And the way that this worked was that Chauncey Billups would be used as a celebrity athlete to bring in victims to this game, and then they used cheating technology like a altered card shuffling machine, hidden cameras in poker chip trays, special sunglasses, and x-ray equipment. Like, God, this is like spy stuff built into the table to read the cards of the unsuspecting players. And then the mafia would use extortion and violence to make sure they paid their gambling debts. So this Chauncey Billups situation is completely different. We're talking about Terry Rozier saying, hey, I'm going to say my foot hurts, or allegedly saying, I'm going to say my foot hurts and I'm not going to play much tonight, versus Chauncey being involved, bringing guys into this mafia scheme here. One victim alone lost $1.8 million, according to the indictment. Then victims believe they were sitting at a fair table. Now, since then, the NBA has issued this statement saying we're in the process of reviewing the federal indictments announced today. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are placed on immediate leave from their teams, and we will continue to cooperate with the authorities, with relevant authorities. We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness, and the integrity of our game remains a top priority. Now, it is mentioned in the ESPN article that just the other day, when he was on the Pat McAfee show, Adam Silver talked about perhaps trying to pull back some of the player prop bets, especially when they're on two-way players. So when we're talking about a two-way player, a guy, at the end of a team's bench, first of all, it's easier to manipulate those kinds of props because the player's not going to play nearly as much. They're not going to have as high of a prop. So the concern is that those are easier to manipulate. Plus, those are typically players that haven't made as much money over the course of their career. So are they more susceptible to taking that kind of a risk versus a guy who's made hundreds of millions of dollars? Now, maybe that's not the case, obviously, with Chauncey Billups, who was a star in the NBA and made a lot of money over the course of his career. But in general, I think the thought is that if you've got a guy who is on the fringe of the league, that's a player who's going to be less invested in protecting the integrity of the game and more willing to take that kind of chance, versus if you've made some of these guys making hundreds of millions of dollars, you're going to be less willing to risk that in exchange to pick up a little bit of extra money, giving away inside information. Now, on the Damon Jones front with the Lakers and LeBron James, Damon Jones played with LeBron with Miami, has been a friend of LeBron, not an official employee of the Lakers. There wasn't anything going on with any of that. Dan Wojcicki has some information on that whole situation. Was told that he was not an employee, but had restricted access to the team as he was on the court with LeBron James during pregame workouts. And James was unaware that Jones was allegedly selling and sharing information about his status. So essentially what they are accusing Damon Jones of doing is finding out when LeBron James would be playing and when he would not be playing, and then selling that information to people who would then bet on it. So specifically a February 9th, 2023 game between the Bucks and the Lakers. This was just days after LeBron set the all-time scoring record. It's believed that LeBron was sitting out due to ankle soreness. Jones allegedly tried to sell or profit from that non-public information, from getting that out there. Again, league sources told The Athletic James was unaware that Jones was doing this and was sharing information about his playing status. And he also allegedly shared information on another top Lakers player, the indictment said, ahead of a January 15th, 2024 game, after he learned the trainer of the player was hurt and his minutes or performance would be affected. So somebody bet $100,000 against the Lakers for the game, and the injury report simply said the player was probable. So that's the gist of it, right? That's what the league is dealing with here this morning. And I'll tell you this is my 2 cents on the whole situation. Is obviously a lot more information is going to come out. We don't know everything as of this moment, as I'm recording this, but the NBA knew, and sports in general. It's not just the NBA that is involved. Very clear. You watch any sports now, and there's betting involved. We have a sponsor on this channel that does some picks and things of that nature. It is very prevalent across the industry that we see now gambling, betting involved and intertwined with sports. And when you did that, when you decided to go down that path, you knew that there was a high probability that at some point somebody was going to mess up. Mistakes were going to be made. And so you knew that when you opened Pandora's box, that was part of the downside. Now, the upside, obviously there's financial upside, but also perhaps increased fan engagement and things of that nature that can come with this. So there's pros and cons that the NBA had to weigh, and they had to know when they went into it that there was a chance, really, let's face it, there was a certainty that at some point somebody was going to mess up. And we had the Jonte Porter situation already. And I think for the NBA, the key here is as they go into this investigation, just as I've talked about with the Kawhi Leonard investigation in the aspiration situation with money maybe being funneled to him outside of the purview of the NBA's salary cap. The important thing here for the NBA is that if these things are proven to be true, and again, it's a big if, the NBA needs to drop the hammer. And they already did it with the Jonte Porter situation. These are cases that took place, at least in the situation of Terry Rozier years ago, as well as the Damon Jones thing years ago. So what the NBA needs to do now, moving forward, is make sure they set the example. They communicate to players, hey, you cannot do this, but I think the way that you put a stop to it, or the way that you do everything you can to put a stop to it, is make it clear that nobody's going to get away with this type of stuff, and make it clear what those consequences are going to be, which means, again, if you're the NBA and you find that Terry Rozier was involved in this stuff, you find that Chauncey Billups was involved in this stuff, you simply cannot have it. It cannot happen. It can't happen for the integrity of the league. It can't happen for the integrity of the NBA's relationship with some of their sponsors now. The gambling partners aren't going to want this type of image either. And so all parties involved need to be united on this. And maybe it does take doing something, adjusting the way player props work, or at least removing them for some of the end of the bench guys, something like that. But the hammer would need to be dropped. The NBA would need to set the example and make it clear that there's not going to be any tolerance for this situation. Again, it's similar to the idea with the Kawhi Leonard situation right now. If there is guilt found there, if it's proven the Clippers did something wrong here, then the NBA needs to drop the hammer. My belief is the same thing needs to happen here, because the NBA needs to set that precedent. They've already done it with the Jonte Porter situation, but what you want is guys to think twice before they're going to go down this path when they have access to information that the general public simply does not. Everybody, give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.